What's up, guys? This is Nico from Limitless, and I'm very excited to finally bring you a deck review with the new set about Greninja. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know my history with Greninja and that I have played it a lot this season and also in the last season. So I'm very excited to finally do a deck review on Greninja with a set that's actually giving it a lot of new and very useful stuff. So yeah, I guess let's get right into it without any more useless talk. So yeah, Pokemon, just straightforward 4443 Greninja line for Froakie, Bubble, flip a coin, fades your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. Very useful attack if you want to stall some turns because your hand is just not too good, or just in a late game when you want to stall out a turn of Hex Maniac or something where you would otherwise lose. So yeah, it's very useful. And next up we have Frogadier with one of the best attacks in the game, which is Water Duplicate. Search your deck for up to 3 Frogadier and put them onto your bench. Shuffle your deck afterward. This is so amazing, this attack, because you're actually able to get your stage 1s. So this pretty much makes the 3 or 2 Greninjas you put into play afterwards, because sometimes you just have a Frogadier Prey, so you will just get 2. Makes them pretty much a stage 1, so this helps the deck a lot if you consider that with being a break, it's actually a stage 3, so hard to get out, but with Water Duplicates, it's actually a lot easier. Then our main attacker, Greninja. Shadow Stitching, 40 damage during your opponent's next turn. Each of his opponents in play has no ability or in hand or pretty much everywhere. Basically our opponent can't use abilities, so very useful attack against for example the Mirror or other decks that rely on abilities, need to get their setup or whatever. It's just useful. And if you don't need it, you just use Moonlight Slash, 60 damage, and if you return a water energy attached to this Pokemon, you deal 20 more damage. And both attacks just cost 1 energy, so it's a very cheap attacker as well. Then our secondary source of damage is Greninja Break. Giant Water Shuriken, discard a water energy from your hand and deal 60 damage, or more likely play 6 damage counters, because in some cases that actually matters if it's counters or just straight up damage. So yeah, 6 damage counters onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if we combine 1 Water Shuriken and Moonlight Slash, we are already at 140. And if we actually are able to use 2 Greninja Breaks, so 2 Giant Water Shuriken, we can deal actually for 3 energies 200 damage, which is a lot. And yeah, these are our only Pokemon. You used to run Beedrill or Jirachi, or Talonflame is also an option, but Beedrill, we will get to a card soon, which pretty much makes Beedrill unnecessary anymore. It's pretty much just a liability if you run it anymore. And yeah, Jirachi, I don't feel like it's too impactful in the current format, so I'd much rather stick with the Froakies to boost up the consistency, because for example at Nationals last year I actually lost my round 4 or round 5 best of 3 because of 2 Jirachi starts, and yeah, you don't want this to happen, so we just stick with the Froakie. And Talonflame, you could run Talonflame instead of the 4 male, for example, but I don't really like playing Talonflame, because if you don't start with it, you just have 3 to 4 cards that are in your deck that don't have any use. And Trainers may also boost your consistency, but yeah, just is more versatile, let's put it this way. And also Flare Blitz can just be, or Arrow Blitz can just be like countered by your opponent playing N or something. So I decided to stick with Trainer's Mail here, because yeah, I just want to have the list most consistent. And Talonflame, if you start with it, it makes the deck more consistent, but if you don't start with it, it actually makes the deck less consistent. And yeah, we just don't want to be our deck less consistent, because we decide to run a card that's not useful if you don't start with it. Yeah, and now for our trainer cards, we have 4 Dive Ball, self-explanatory. We only have water Pokemon. Dive Ball searches water Pokemon. We also don't run Shaman, so Ultra Ball doesn't need to be at a high count. So yeah, for Dive Ball. Then, as I said, for Trainer's Mail, pretty much a replacement for Talonflame, or like vice versa. But I prefer Trainer's Mail, so I decided to run for Trainer's Mail. Then we have for VS Seeker. It's a staple in every deck that's not Vileplume. So yeah, why not? It's just an amazing card. Then we have 2 Ultra Ball. As I said, we don't need a lot of Ultra Balls because we don't run Shaman, but having Ultra Ball is still very nice. I used to run a split of 1-1 Ultra Ball and Level Ball, or maybe even 2 Level Ball and 1 Ultra Ball. But now, as we will see with another card that I will show in a bit, we don't really have a lot of use for Level Ball anymore, so Ultra Ball is just in general the better card in this version of Greninja. And yeah, I will just talk about a little more in detail when we get to the card I'm actually talking about. Then we have 2 Field Blower, first new card, amazing. This card, a combination of stadiums and tool cards. It's just super good against Garbodor, for example, which was one of the biggest weaknesses of Greninja, and also the reason why you ran Beedrill, and Beedrill made your deck lack of consistency in a lot of games. So yeah, Field Blower, amazing card. 2 offs, because if one is priced against Garbodor decks, or just because we want to get it very quickly, just 2 Field Blower. Then the next new card right away, we have Rescue Stretcher. It's pretty much, in this kind of deck, is a better Super Rod, because we have Fisherman to get water energies back, and also we don't really need to shuffle water energies back in, so we will most likely only use the second effect. If we would, like, compare to Super Rod, it's shuffle 3 Pokemon from a discard pile into your deck, which is Super Rod in this deck pretty much, but we also get the very nice effect of putting a Pokemon from our discard pile into our hand. It's pretty much a combination of Buddy Rescue and Super Rod. We can just use it as what we need in the current situation, and getting back a break to evolve right away, getting a Greninja to evolve Froggy is just super good. So Rescue Stretcher just replaces Super Rod. Then we have another new card, which is Choice Band. Choice Band is a tool that allows the Pokemon that it's attached to deal 30 more damage to opponents' GX or EX Pokemon. We already talked about the damage of Greninja when I showed you the Greninja break and the regular one, and I said we are able to deal 200 damage if we have 2 breaks, are able to discard the energies and use Moonlight Slash, and with Choice Band we actually get to 230, or if we only use Moonlight Slash, to 110, Moonlight Slash with 1 Water Shuriken, 170, and so on. So it's a super good card. Also, we are able to use Shadow Stitching for 70 damage, which is also very nice. So Choice Band, definitely a 3 off. 4 would be too much, and yeah, 3 is just, I feel like, the perfect amount. And it's pretty much a replacement for Bursting Balloon, but since you had to run 4 Bursting Balloon or 3 Bursting Balloon and Echo Arm, or maybe even 4 Bursting Balloon and 1 Echo Arm to make the most use of Bursting Balloon, and also your opponent could play around it, you get more space for consistency. So this list actually has a lot more consistency cards than the usual list would have. So it's pretty much solves Greninja's biggest weakness, and this is what I like the most about this list, and also the cards from the new set, because they actually help Greninja to be more consistent, which was its biggest weakness. And we only play 1 stadium, 3 of the stadium, but only 1 type of stadium. It's Brooklet Hill. Also a new card, and also a card that boosts consistency. Once you each player's turn, that player may search the deck for a basic water Pokemon or basic fighting Pokemon, put it onto the bench, and shuffle the deck. This is the reason why we don't run a lot of level balls, because Brooklet Hill allows us to get Froakies, and level ball would allow us to get Froakie and Frogadier. And since we are able to search Frogadiers with Brooklet Hill, it leaves small dive balls and ultra balls for a later point, and in the later point we don't really have use for level ball anymore, because we only need one Frogadier in the first few turns, because we evolve from Frogadier, search the rest of them. Maybe we will need some in the later game, but we have Rescue Stature if we want to use it for this, or like we can still use Dive Ball to get Frogadier, and having more cards to actually get your Greninjas is just better. So yeah, we don't run level ball anymore. And also we don't have Jirachi, which was also like a target for level ball. And yeah. And last but not least, let's get to our supporter cards before we move to the energies. We have 4 Sycamore, standard stuff. We have 4 N. As I said, we have enough space to allow us to run a lot of like extra cards, extra consistency cards. So 4N makes perfect sense in this deck. Then only 1 Lysander. The main reason is, well, when Greninja first was a deck, you didn't run Lysander at all, or just a one-off rarely if you wanted to play it. So the only reason why players decided to put in more was because of stuff like more Garbodor being existent, and stuff like Glaceon, which you would have to Lysander own, but all this stuff is not too existent anymore. And even if Garbodor would be existent, which it probably will be, because yeah, the new Garbodor's coming out and the old one will probably be a one-off in this deck, we still have Field Blower. So yeah, you can pretty much see it as like Field Blower replaces Lysander and Beedrill as well, while also being useful in a lot of other cases. So 1 Lysander is perfectly fine. Then I already talked about getting energies back with Fisherman. I don't think this card needs any explanation. We discard energies, so we want to get them back. Also, this card is we can use Verse Seeker on Fisherman, so yeah, we can just get energies back if we want to. And to Ace Trainer, because usually we will get behind in the early game, and Ace Trainer is just so strong in decks like Greninja, because yeah, you put your opponent down to 3 cards, and this already after he's only drawn 1 card, because if you compare to N, imagine he knocks out our Frogadier that we used to use water duplicates, and if we would play N, we would draw 6 cards, our opponent would draw 5 cards, but with Ace Trainer he actually draws 2 cards less. And also in the late game, if we, for example, are at 2 price, our opponent at 1, we still draw 6 cards and he only draws 3 cards. So yeah, Ace Trainer, very, very strong card in Greninja. And finally, our energy is nothing too special aside from our special energy. And we have Splash Energy, 2 of them. Running more of them would not have consistency with like Giant Water Shuriken, which we will be able to use a lot more now, because not a lot of people are running Hex anymore, or just a one-off. And Garbodor, yeah, Field Blower. So the reason why a lot of players decided to run more than 2 was because Garbodor was so much present. For example, at the international championships in London, a lot of players decided to run Evilta Garbodor, and you pretty much played these matchups without Giant Water Shuriken, so you only used your Greninja Break to be a wall with 170 HP, so having Splash Energy to get more of them back made sense. But now we want to use Water Shuriken way more, so we only want 2 of them and 7 Water Energies to always have the Water Energy when we need it. And yeah, so nothing too spicy with the energy cards. And yeah, I guess that wraps up the deck profile, and I will see you guys in just a second in the first game. So in our first game, we will be going first against the new Garbodor Tapu Lele Tauros deck, which is probably the most hyped deck right now, because it also did well in Japan before. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how Greninja plays out against one of the best decks, or most hyped decks pretty much. It still has to prove if it's one of the best decks, because there's actually some players think it's bad, some players think it's very good. So yeah, our starting hand is looking very good. We get our Froakie, and I'm actually able to play the N, because we only have 3 Frogadiers in deck, so the odds of drawing 2 with N plus our draw for turn is very low. So yeah, there's no reason to not do it to get a little more cards. And our opponent starts with Taurus, attaches a Choice Band, which is very surprising actually, because yeah, he could have used the tool spot to attach a Floatstone and he just bench one of his other Pokemon, but he decided to put the Choice Band, preventing him from attaching a Floatstone. Place an N, we draw a Frogadier once again, he benches a Trubbish, and at that point I knew what deck I was up against, so yeah, I had to limit my items to a minimum, which Greninja is easily able to, because we have a lot of Ents or Ace Trainer, and once we get our like 2 to 3 Greninjas into play, we don't have to dig a lot for more cards. This allows us to easily save our item cards, and yeah, we can just pretty much get a chill setup and sit here until we have the setup we want to get rid of our opponent's Garbodor. He evolves into Garbodor and discards another Floatstone. No, not discards another Floatstone, but actually discards one Floatstone. So at that point he would have been able to attach it to his Taurus and use it to retreat for Garbodor and actually attack. Although I'm not sure if I actually have any item cards aside from maybe a Dive Ball, so wouldn't matter too much. But there we see Brook the Till, getting us a Froakie. As I said, very nice card, really like it. And at this point I will just continue getting my setup. Don't want to use too many items this turn, but I had to use Ultra Ball and discard the Sycamore, so yeah, I will at least get a second Greninja, because if he would have gotten rid of one of our Greninja, we would have been in a tough spot. So I decided to use Lysander and damage the Garbodor so we can get a 2-hit knockout, or an easy knockout even without Greninja Break, keeping the Versatiker so we can either use Sycamore again or use Lysander. Also this way I didn't have to discard the Versatiker instead of a supporter for Ultra Ball to boost his damage. It just makes a lot of sense to keep the Versatiker there. And yeah, as you can see, I will actually be able to get a Greninja Break and also use Greninja Break's ability this turn. Also a Splash Energy as well, so I will be able to sacrifice, or not sacrifice, like just keep my Greninja Break active, and even if he knocks it out I will just get back on my parts, and because I attached an energy the turn before, I would still be able to return an energy, which is pretty nice overall, getting rid of the first Garbodor. And yeah, he puts up Taurus. The only way he gets a knockout is by using Mad Bull, because if he only uses Rage he will put us at 160, which is not enough. So he has to use his GX attack right here if he wants to take a knockout, and there we go. So he can't use any GX attacks anymore this game, and we get our Greninjas back. So very nice spot for us actually. Thanks to the Versatiker I will be able to Lysander his Trubbish, and yeah, he made a very big mistake by yeah, filling up his bench so much, especially with the Pseudo Voodoo, because this actually doesn't matter at all in this matchup. So would have been a lot smarter of him to bench multiple Trubbish, because right now I can just knock out the Trubbish he benches right away, unless he plays Wally, which I assume he doesn't, because yeah, Wally might be good in some cases, but generally you don't really want it. And yeah, there you already see, if I'm able to get 2 water energies next turn, I will actually be able to knock out his Trubbish with 2 water shurikens, which is very nice, or I can just potentially take the knockout on the Taurus, depending on what I draw. I'd actually get a Sycamore, so I will be able to use Giant Water Shuriken once onto Trubbish, use Sycamore, very likely get a new energy, and I actually managed to get my second splash as well, so we'll be able to attach this one. But I will actually be able to return it, because I will put Taurus at 140, and if he uses Rage it's only 160, so Greninja doesn't get out. But I decide to use Shadow Stitching to prevent him from getting a bigger setup. Using Moonlight Slash would have been fine, but I felt like I'm at such a big advantage already that it just made sense to prevent him from getting setup. And there we go. Because he had a Lifestyle, he would have been able to get a knockout anyway, so getting the Shadow Stitch out right there was definitely the right play. And there we will finally see Rescue Stretcher, put a Pokemon from the discover back to your hand, getting the Greninja back, evolving right away. This is why I love this card so much in Greninja. It's just so much better than Super Rod, because we actually have Super Rod and another useful effect, which is super nice. And yeah, we get another Greninja. We are able to use Water Shuriken as well. We'll use Water Shuriken on the bench Tapu Lele, because if I use it on Shaman, I will be able to win next turn, but if he uses Scary Turn, I just waste the Water Shuriken. And since he has to attack to stay in the game, he has to attack with Tapu Lele, so I decided to put the damage on there to pretty much put him checkmate and not allow him any option to still win the game, because this way I can either knock out his Tapu Lele or get 2 Water Energies, knock out his bench Shaman. There's just so many options for me to just win the game in the next turn. There we go, top deck Fisherman, just get back all the energies and use Giant Water Shuriken twice to win the game. The second game is also against Garbodor, but against a completely different deck, or not entirely completely different, because it's also Garbodor based, but it's actually Garbodor Trevenant. Trevenant deals 30 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand, and as we already saw, Garbodor does the same for each item card, and for 20, okay, it doesn't do the same at all, but it also deals more damage if you have more trainers for each item in your opponent's discard pile. So you force your opponent to either play them down, but be vulnerable to Garbodor, or keep them in their hand and be vulnerable to Trevenant. Also Trevenant, obviously Grass. Greninja is weak to Grass, and our starting hand is not looking too good, but thankfully he plays an N. This was like one of the situations that you usually come across where you just sit there like, I hope my opponent plays N so I can still stay in the game, and yeah, right there. Sadly, top deck another Frogadier and also only have one left in the deck, so just wanted tickets for one, but I guess it's fine. And he actually decides to evolve into Trevenant Break for some reason, which I didn't really understand, because yeah, it's not a grass type anymore. And he actually also plays Handiwork, which is like also super nice synergy with Garbodor, and yeah, this is actually a deck that makes a lot of sense, because you either keep your opponent in their items, or they have to play it, or you just discard them with Handiwork. Well, the Handiwork part is probably the most questionable, but the rest perfectly makes sense, and a lot of people were talking about the deck when both these cards were first announced. So yeah, very interesting to finally playtest against this deck. And right here, we are in a decent spot. Sadly, we drew a lot of trainer cards, but thankfully we had the splash energy attached, so we will get back our Greninja, be able to evolve another Frogadier, be able to evolve our active into a break, and yeah, get another break as well, because we had 2 Greninjas in play. And right there, I'm actually blowing just through my items, because it doesn't really matter if I use them or not. I just want to get a quick setup, so I will just be able to steamroll my opponent, or just get a good setup to win the game. There's no point in keeping them, because Trevenant just deals more damage. And I drew energy. This decide to knock out this Trevenant, because it's always nice in these kind of situations to already knock out your opponent's basics when in these matchups, because you limit them to a few attackers, because right here he has to use the Garbodor now, and next turn I can just KO the Garbodor, and if he doesn't get a new attacker, I will pretty much just win. There I actually lose because he had lose my Greninja, because he has had the field blower to discard my tools. Just didn't find the right word right there. But yeah, I'm also thinking of my deck because I feel like in this situation N is what I'm most vulnerable to, because I will just take out his last attacker and he's only left with Tapu Leles, which don't deal a lot of damage to Greninjas. So yeah, I decided to use the dive ball there. Wasn't a mistake, some might think, because I had a Frogadier, but I knew that I couldn't evolve the Frogadier, so I just did it to thin out my deck. Because as we see, I don't have too many cards in deck anymore, and he actually used an N, and 2 of the cards I drew were actually dead, so if I had the dive ball, I could have drawn a dive ball instead of the Sycamore. But there, I got the Sycamore. And yeah, this game looks very one for me. Thin out my deck even more. Use Moonlight Slash right there. Sadly not enough to get the knockout, but it's very unlikely that his Tapu Lele will be able to deal enough damage to take the Greninja knockout, because he would have to deal 110, which is 6 energies attached to his Tapu Lele, which yeah, is very unlikely. And yeah, all I pretty much need this turn is the energy, and once again, Fisherman wins us the game. Didn't really look like we were going to lose anyways, but finishing up with Fisherman is always nice, and yeah, this pretty much wraps up the games. And I'm actually very surprised on how well Greninja actually ran. Obviously I knew with the new cards Greninja was going to be more consistent, but the way that it felt like having Brooklet Hill and all the good stuff was actually very nice and very refreshing to actually be able to get a setup in pretty much every game. Also in the games I obviously didn't only play these 2 games, I played a lot more, and in pretty much every game I was able to get out. And yeah, all I have to say is that I really like Greninja with this set, and I hope that it will be able to once again make showings at big tournaments. And this pretty much wraps up the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys soon.